And it's not to be critical of them, but it is. It's really more critical of the system that we all pay taxes to support, that these kids are coming to the organization. When I say kids, I'm talking 20 to 30-year-olds who really can't think. And they don't process. And you don't need rocket scientists to do a lot of what we do, but you do want people who are curious, who are smart, who don't just do what they're told, but actually can take it to the next step and anticipate some of what you need. And so at a base level, what we've learned is that we must learn to train well first and foremost. There's sort of 4 things I'm going to talk about today. One is training well. I will separate training well from developing well, and I'm going to talk about that. But I call this sort of the HR wellness plan, the wellness program, and so I'm not going to talk about exercising and everything. I'm going to really talk about what I call a wellness program for HR. The first thing is we have to learn to train well. We are, as I said, bringing in folks in our workplace who are otherwise not ready to come to work. And I don't know if many of you, by showing, are you seeing that? Is it just me? That's what we're hearing in our membership studies. These people literally are not prepared to come in. Some of the basic reading, writing, thinking skills that we'd expect people to come into the workplace, college graduates, I might add, they're not bringing to the workplace. In the past, we were able to go and recruit people, and we'd post an ad on Monster or Jobster or whatever the emails are, and people would come in, and we'd have 1,000 resumes, and we could cull it down to 20 or 30 stars, and we could hire 1 or 2 superstars, and everything would be great. It's changing now. It's changing when, so the average time to fill for the folks in talent acquisition here, it's extending because you're bringing in a lot of people and the talent just isn't there. We've been sitting and talking with, in my consulting days, employers, and I sort of predicted this 5 years ago. I said, listen, guys, you're going to have to start training your own talent. The days of waiting for these people to fall into your organization ready to do the job, is gone. Those days are gone. Now we have to really figure out how to train people well. And as I said, it begins not just at, once you get someone on board and you put them in a training class, it's orientation, in my mind, is the first of the training experiences. And then you have to develop them from there. What we heard, and the Society for Human Resource Management conducted a couple of studies. We talked to HR professionals a lot, we talked to business professionals a lot, but we began talking to employees, new employees, to understand where is the failure, what happened, why are you leaving 4 to 6 weeks into a company? I don't know about us, we had one company, one of the IAC companies, where for a 1,600 employee organization, we issued 4,000 W-2s at the end of the year. 4,000 on 1,600 employees. And we were literally bringing them in. My poor talent acquisition people were at the end of their wits. They were like, where the hell am I supposed to recruit more bodies from? Because, by the way, those 2,400 people that went out the door, they went out and bad-mouthed us. They talked badly about the experience. So now we're competing against, companies who have a better run rate than we do. And there's only so many people. This is a finite supply of talent. So we went to the talent acquisition people, went to the training folks and said, we have to figure out how to do this better. Our training initiatives have to be relevant. They have to be interesting. They have to be engaging. We need to go back to the folks, at learn.coms and all of the other providers and people who do this, and we need to go to our organizations and say, make this relevant. If we are not engaging these people, talent acquisition people have already sold them on the concept, come here, work for us. We have the body. Now it's your job to train them, make sure that they go to the workplace, that they're able to go to the workplace and are successful. In our study, we heard from new employees, people who left within the first 90 days, that training, the failure to train them properly, engage them, was the #1 reason they left. And you have to think that had to be the case. Hell, they took the money, so money wasn't the issue. It didn't change between day 1 and day 90, hopefully. And many of us are smart enough to even take the money up after you end the training course. So if you hire them for 10 and you pay them 12 at the end of 90 days, they're making more money than they came in making. So that works. It had to be something else. It wasn't that they didn't like their trainer. That's the big thing that we heard. Many of them liked the person, be a best friend. They just didn't think they were being prepared to be successful in the role that they were hired to do. They didn't know enough. And people don't want to fail at any level. Think about it. It's much like what happens in the high school, secondary systems. People drop out because you haven't figured out how to engage them and teach them. They get lost. They feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail. 6 months from now, I'm going to be fired. And they don't want that to happen. So what we learned is that we're not training people well. And if I can leave you with anything, we have to specifically go out, find out what are the latest in pedagogy. Adult training and adult learning is very different in many ways, I believe, than teaching children. And in many ways, it's like teaching children. But it is. But the point is, they learn differently. And we have to figure out, you all as training and development professionals have to spend time figuring out what are the ways to communicate effectively to this audience, or we will lose them. And people like me, who you steal my talent away, I'll be right there at day 90 trying to bring them back if they were stars. And if they're not, I'm going to encourage them to stay with you. You know what I mean? I'm going to say, stay there. Because that's the competitive disadvantage. If I can give you all the turkeys and I keep the eagles, God is good. You know, that's what this work's about. So training well, I can't emphasize enough the importance of absolutely coming up with relevant, engaging training. That's what we heard from our students. Of course, we've heard it from CEOs. And of course, we've heard it from employers. If we put it together and figure out the ways to do it. I tell you, I work for a technology company. We own all sorts of tech, from Ask.com to Match.com to HSN, ladies, please go use HSN. And we've learned that the best dollar that we can spend is on training people at a basic level. We have large customer service, call center environments, and if we train people, they feel better in their jobs, because at the end of the day, they can leave us and go somewhere else and pick up the phone for someone else. It doesn't matter, HSN, QVC, doesn't matter where they're working. If we figure out the money right, it's about making sure that they feel trained and can do their job. I was talking to a guy the other day, and he said, one of the problems is this company that I went to took me through a training exercise, and he said they bring up on their screen how I'm supposed to answer a question. So there's the person on the other end of the phone poses a question, and you go through your little computer, and up pops the answer, and you read the answer. And he said, I kept getting stuck. I got the toughest questions day after day after day, and my performance scores, the metrics that we keep in call centers, were going down. And he said, I got frustrated and I quit. And I said, and on your way out, what did you tell people during your exit survey? And he said, I told them the training was horrible, and what they told me was I couldn't cut it. Well, you know what? I would submit to you that maybe he could have cut it. Maybe the training wasn't right. Maybe we needed to do some, engage in some introspection and review that, it's our failure. If you can't teach someone how to do what you do, and what frankly are not very, very complicated jobs, then it's the training department's problem, not necessarily the candidate. That presupposes that the HR trained sort of talent acquisition people have brought in at least people with pulses. But put that aside. If the person has been otherwise qualified and is otherwise able to do this job, and you can't teach them, then maybe, just maybe, that's an opportunity for us to look deep within ourselves and figure out how we can make this work. It's not always about pointing the fingers at other people, because guess what? This is a finite, very limited supply of people. That's why sort of offshoring was created. It wasn't, people talk about it being cost effective and all of that. No, it's just the talent's limited. The talent pool is not available. So many of us are forced to leave the country. So there you go. Next, develop well. I've spent a couple of times, in fact, I teach a course and will be speaking at Duke's Fuqua. I always have to be careful when I say the name of that school because I've said it wrong before. The Fuqua School of Business. I'm going to talk to them in October at a big conference that they're having, but I spend a lot of time meeting with MBA students around the country and really trying to get in their head, because in many ways these are our future leaders. These are the people who will be running our organizations. We were at Harvard a couple of weeks ago and really spending time trying to get in their head. What's the proposition? The number one thing, and I'm still amazed, and maybe this is music to the ears of people in this room, was development. They said, if you develop us well, we will come work for you. And I was amazed. I thought these, sort of pesky little kids, 25-year-old, 30-year-old, who want to make billions of dollars. That's what I thought. It was going to be a compensation conversation. I actually thought, because of the employee relations bent that I have, I thought they want to be treated well. Well, all of that stuff is right, but number one at the top of their list, to my surprise, was development. Many of them called it training, and they used the terms interchangeably for my purposes. What they were saying was, what's going to keep me here is a commitment from this company to develop me. And I thought, okay, let me dig down a little bit deeper and figure out, are they talking about developing me to some end, advancing my career, making a succession plan so that I know that this week I'm going to be this, next year I'm going to be this, and next year I'm going to be that? That wasn't it, because much to my surprise, they said, I don't plan to be with a company more than 5 years.